As we often try to do, the people who are making the news are the people that we are talking to, and Illinois Comptroller Leslie Munger is making some news. Leslie, good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
We're doing very well. Thanks for taking time out of what we know is a very busy schedule for us.
Happy to be here. I'm actually leaving in a little bit to head out to Rockford to talk to people today.
Outstanding. Well, we welcome you as always, and every newscast is leading with some of your comments of yesterday, talking about we need to get it together, get this budget put together correctly, or there's going to be some dire effects.
Honestly, as we look forward to the end of the month, we are going to have a lot of people who we will not be able to send checks to. I'm bound by what we can pay under the Constitution, and social service organizations, nonprofits, small employers, Medicaid providers, all these are people who we will be unable under the law to pay if we do not have an approved budget and appropriated funds as of July 1st.
Now, Leslie, there are some checks that still constitutionally must be written. Who still gets paid or who still receives checks, even if nothing is done by the end of this month?
The people that we can pay are funded through continuing appropriations. So things like the state's debt will be paid. Funds going into pension payments and retirees will still receive their benefit checks. Those are continuing appropriations. There are groups like the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families and Assistance for the Aged, Blind, and Disabled programs. Those will be paid. And most local government payments will be paid. Things that come through pass through the sales tax because it's not an appropriation, it's a pass-through.
Now, if the impasse continues on, and we see the deadline approach, and then we see it in the rearview mirror, we're looking at some significant stoppages. What's the one on August 10th?
On August 10th, if we do not have a budget by early August, we will be unable to send the first of the school payments out that schools usually need to open their doors. Now, some school districts are in better shape than others and may have some reserves, but those that are very tight on their budget will have difficulty opening their schools.
Leslie Munger is with us. She's Illinois Comptroller. It's Riley Scot on WROK. Now, there is a budget that has been voted upon, approved by both the House and the Senate. They have not sent it to the governor yet. We know it's at least probably more like $4 billion out of balance. If it comes to it, should the governor sign off on that budget just to get checks rolling, or is it on the legislators to give him something that actually is balanced?
I hope the governor does not sign a budget that is nearly $4 billion out of balance, because we have the fiscal problems today because we have overspent our budget for years in our state. And I think it is incumbent on the General Assembly to send a budget that is balanced, or at least close to being balanced, where they can sit down and negotiate, to get to a balanced budget. But year after year, we've had budgets where we spent more than we take in, and that doesn't really help anyone because we appropriate money that I don't have the money to pay. Mm-hmm. So social service organizations wait for checks and are in very difficult situation because of it.
Seems like for the longest time, the General Assembly has just looked forward to the rubber stamp that was the governor's desk. Whatever they threw forward was going to happen. It didn't really matter what the ramifications or consequences are. There's as they say in the movies, there's a new sheriff in town, and it seems that you, along with the new sheriff, are making sure that people know about the ramifications rather than just quietly take some of this drubbing you guys are getting from the other side.
Well, I mentioned earlier, we're in this problem because of years of passing unbalanced budgets. We have the worst credit rating in the country. We have $5 billion of bills that are sitting unpaid now because of unbalanced budgets. And, this is the type of activity that has put us in this situation. And I think the first thing we have to do is start living within our means so that we can begin to pay down our debt and then use that money to fund some of these important things that we can't afford right now. So, I think the most important thing we can do is get a balanced budget.
Leslie Munger with us. She's Illinois Comptroller. It's Riley Scot on WROK. She'll be in Rockford later on today, and Rockford is where her husband is originally from, too, as we found out previously. Sometimes, Leslie, when we get to these crisis points, magically, there are funds found, right? There's a fund sweep, or we were able to borrow here, do this. In this situation, though, this is not necessarily about funds as much as it is about the authority to issue those checks. Is that right?
From my standpoint, it is the legislature has to, and the governor have to pass a budget that allow us, in my office, in the comptroller's office, to pay the bills. And unless there's money appropriated, even if it's swept from a fund, unless that money is appropriated for a specific purpose, I'm unable to use money in the state to pay, bills of the state. So, certainly one opportunity would be to go through, perhaps dormant funds and use that as a way to help balance the budget. But I just want to emphasize that if we have to pay that money back into a fund, that's just another form of borrowing that we've done in the past.
Leslie, are you optimistic that cooler heads will prevail? That maybe maybe a little wisdom will work its way through, and we'll get this figured out?
I certainly hope so. I think people, in Springfield, on both sides down there, the governor and the legislature, have to realize that there are really dire consequences by not getting a budget by the end of this month. State employees will not receive their checks. Social service organizations will not receive their checks. People will start to really feel the pain very quickly. And, these are not easy situations. I know these decisions are extremely difficult, but we have to lock arms. We have to get together. We have to negotiate in good faith. And I think both sides have to sit down and listen so we can get a solution and a balanced budget passed.
She's State Comptroller Leslie Munger. Leslie, we appreciate the accessibility. You're always there when we call, and we appreciate that. Have a terrific day, and look forward to seeing you in Rockford.
Thank you. Thanks so much. I love talking to you guys, too.